Hey there, and welcome to a deep dive that promises to be quite insightful. We're diving into the world of Taurus and Gemini compatibility. When we talk about relationships, astrology can give us a really different perspective, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's not about fortune telling, right? It's more about understanding the energy each sign brings into the mix.
Exactly. And let me tell you, this pairing that you requested, it's got it all. You want passion, it's there. Intellectual sparks,
Definitely.
definitely. But also maybe a little bit of a cosmic tug of war.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, right? We're talking about two elements that you wouldn't think would work together. Taurus being an earth sign. It's all about that grounded energy, sensuality, those creature comforts.
Stability, right.
Yeah.
Like a Taurus is all about enjoying a delicious meal,
Mm.
taking their time.
Exactly. Savoring every bite. And then on the other hand, we have Gemini, air sign, known for their wit, their love of communication, always buzzing with new ideas. So if a Taurus is all about the present moment, a Gemini's already 5 steps ahead.
So with all of these differences, can these two really find any harmony?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I'll tell you, like most things in astrology, it's not a simple yes or no. One source I was looking at, they made a really interesting analogy. They said that for a Gemini, connecting intellectually is as important as like food and sleep are to a Taurus.
Wow, so you're telling me these two have completely different needs from the get-go.
Precisely. And this difference, it plays out in every single aspect of their lives, even, and you probably guessed it, the bedroom.
Which, let's be real, that's a pretty important part of any relationship. And our listener definitely wants to know how these two match up between the sheets.
Let's just say, if harmony means they have perfectly matched desires, there might be a learning curve. Remember how Taurus loves the physical world? Well, that translates into their love life, too. They want sensuality, comfort, pleasure.
I'm sensing that Gemini might have a slightly asterisk, different approach.
You could say that. Remember that need for mental stimulation? Well, it doesn't just disappear when the lights go out. Gemini needs that spark, that playfulness, maybe even a little intellectual banter to really get going.
So you're saying it's not exactly a match made in heaven, at least when it comes to the physical side of things. One source even mentioned Taurus being happy, just spending like a whole day in bed. But Gemini, they'd rather be out exploring the world, juggling new ideas.
It might seem that way, yeah. But remember, astrology is about understanding those differences, not judging them.
Okay, but how do you bridge the gap when one person's idea of a good time is literally staying put? You can't have a philosophical debate in the middle of everything, can you?
And that is where communication comes in. And luckily for Gemini, being ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, they usually have no problem expressing themselves.
Right. But even the best talker can't just erase those fundamental differences, right? And speaking of potential problems, let's talk about trust. Because based on what our listener shared, that's a big one for them.
Ah, yes. Trust, or maybe the lack of it. The source we looked at was pretty upfront about Gemini and, well, flatiness.
Flightiness.
It's not necessarily about lying or anything like that. It's more about that Gemini need for mental stimulation, always searching for something new. And that can make them seem a little, shall we say, non-committal.
Which I can't imagine sits well with a Taurus who wants to know exactly where they stand.
Exactly. And that's where things can get complicated. Taurus needs security. And when they don't feel that, they can become, well, possessive.
The source actually used the word obsessive to describe how a Taurus might react if they feel their Gemini partner pulling away, which is, wow, that's kind of intense.
It just goes to show how important open and honest communication is in this pairing, because those insecurities, if you don't address them, they can really fester.
But even with good communication, these differences, are we heading for disaster here? Is there any hope for a Taurus and a Gemini to find lasting love?
Not at all. Astrology isn't about predicting doom. It's more like a map, right? It shows us the potential challenges, but also the strengths.
Okay, so how do these two actually talk to each other in a way that actually works, given all these potential obstacles?
Well, this is where the source pointed out something really interesting. They pointed out that in the zodiac, Taurus actually comes before Gemini.
Okay. What does that mean for the relationship?
It means that Taurus, in a way, lays the groundwork for Gemini to really thrive. Like, Taurus provides that stable foundation, those roots, if you will.
Yeah.
And that allows Gemini to be the branches, reaching out, exploring.
It's like Taurus keeps Gemini grounded while still letting them be their free-spirited selves.
Exactly. And, listener, think about it. Your strengths as a Taurus your practicality, your grounded nature. These are amazing assets for your Gemini partner who might, sometimes have their head in the clouds.
So Taurus provides that anchor that lets Gemini explore their ideas without, like, floating away completely. I love that.
Right, and it goes both ways. Gemini, with all that energy and those new ideas, they can help Taurus step outside their comfort zone a little, see things from a new perspective.
It's all about balance, recognizing and appreciating what each person brings to the table. But we can't forget about the emotional side of things. How did Taurus and Gemini, with their very different approaches to love, how do they deal with that?
You're right, we can't forget about the emotional side. This is where things can get a little, well, messy. Taurus with all that depth of feeling, and Gemini who's a little more, let's say, cerebral. It can be a challenge.
So tell me, how do these two signs actually experience and express love? Are they even speaking the same language?
Well, picture this. Taurus, ruled by Venus, the planet of love, they feel everything so deeply. They're all about affection, closeness, knowing their love is rock solid.
Which makes sense, right? Taurus craves that stability, so of course they want it in their relationships too. I'm guessing, though, that Gemini has other ideas about how all this lovey-dovey stuff should go.
You know it. Don't forget, Gemini's ruler is Mercury, the planet of communication, of intellect. So for them, showing love might mean having these amazing conversations, sharing experiences, maybe even a little playful teasing here and there.
Which, honestly, it just doesn't sound like enough for a Taurus who wants to feel that deep connection.
And that's the thing. The source we looked at, they actually said that a Taurus might feel a bit starved emotionally by a Gemini, even if the Gemini genuinely cares.
So it's not that Gemini doesn't have deep feelings. They just show them in a way that Taurus might not get.
Exactly. It's like they're speaking two different languages.
Okay, so how do you translate? Can a Taurus ever really feel secure if their partner's not, like, constantly showering them with affection?
It takes effort from both sides. Taurus has to accept that maybe grand gestures aren't really Gemini's thing. And
Yeah.
Gemini, they could try expressing affection more directly, just to reassure their Taurus.
It's about finding a way to meet in the middle so that both partners feel loved for who they are. But beyond the emotional stuff, beyond the physical stuff, can these two even find enough to connect on, to actually build a lasting relationship?
That's where those shared activities come in, finding those little moments of connection that work for both of them. The source had some interesting examples.
Okay, like what? Don't leave me hanging.
Well, one thing they mentioned was just going for walks together. Sounds simple, right? But think about it. For a Taurus, it's about being present in their body, enjoying nature. And for a Gemini, it's like a walking meditation. Their mind can wander, come up with new ideas.
So it's not really about the walk itself. It's about what each person gets out of it. It's like this perfect intersection of their different needs.
Exactly. And remember how much Taurus loves those creature comforts. Maybe that walk ends with a delicious picnic. Taurus got to indulge their love of food. Gemini got a change of scenery. Everybody wins. The source also mentioned art. Creating something together could be really powerful for them.
Oh, I see it. Gemini has the big, innovative idea, and Taurus helps make it a reality. They each bring something unique, and the end result is even better because they did it together.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of a Taurus-Gemini pairing. It's about taking those differences, those things that seem like they would clash, and using them to build something really special.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into Taurus and Gemini compatibility. We've covered everything from intimacy to art, with a healthy dose of communication advice thrown in. So what's the key takeaway here? What do you want our listener to remember?
Remember that astrology is a guide, not a rule book. It shows us the potential, the good and the bad. But whether a relationship works, any relationship, it comes down to communication, empathy, and, wanting to make it work.
Beautifully said. And listener, as you explore these ideas, don't think you need to change who you are to make a relationship work. Focus on understanding yourself, your partner, and see how your energies can work together even when they're different.
Here's a final thought for you. What resonated with you most in this Taurus-Gemini dynamic? How can you use what we talked about in your own life? Keep those questions in mind.
Until next time, keep exploring, and remember, the stars can guide us, but ultimately, we write our own love stories.